I asked earlier if you're familiar with that expression of paying it forward. Our guest today knows this concept all too well. To introduce you to him and sharing this conversation, we're glad to have you, Graeme Hutchinson, on the programme. Like many of us, you have a day job, but you're also involved in the Cowra BreakAway. What is Cowra BreakAway?
Cowra BreakAway is a chance for kids, underprivileged kids or kids that come from foster homes to experience a weekend that's completely different from probably anything they've ever done.
So how is it different? What is different about it?
Because a lot of these kids have never been in the waterways on a boat or never been in an aeroplane or haven't had a chance to have a go on some of the stuff that we have in the hangar. I guess it's just filled with things that kids like.
So you have a hangar which you own, you make it available to this course, and they get up in an aircraft. I mean, that's very exciting for many, many kids, I'm sure.
Oh, it is. Some don't want to go, but at the end of the day, they usually do.
Yeah.
And it's usually only a 10 or 15-minute flight over Cowra, but if there's 6 or 8 or 10 or 11 kids there, they all get a chance at it.
So I'm presuming that there's a lot of people working with you and helping you to do this.
There's a group of volunteers, some that come up from Sydney with me to Cowra. So there's probably 6 or 7, and then up there another 10 or 12. At any time there could be up to 20 volunteers, with the fire brigade as a main part of it.
And how many kids go at each time you go?
It can vary, Keith, like 6 to 7, but we've had 11. One Christmas time we had 15. And the carers or staff members or foster parents, but mainly staff members from Bernardo's and Lachlan Valley Youth Group out at, because there's a lot of regional areas they come from.
You're a pilot yourself then, you do a bit of flying?
I'm a chief flying instructor and a pilot examiner on extreme sport or recreational aviation Group D, powered parachutes.
Yeah, sure. So look, do you think, where does it begin in your mind, all of this? I mean, did it something that you really wanted to do? It was an idea? What happened?
Yeah, the idea came along about probably 9 years ago, and this is our 8th year of doing it. So, but probably because of where I came from being adopted and knowing that I was lucky enough to go into a good home and a loving family, where a lot of kids didn't get that opportunity, and they didn't even end up in a home, and they go from foster care to foster care all the time. That's where it came from.
It's lovely to talk to somebody who can talk like that, because we know all too well, don't we, that there are bad experiences that go very often, but there are good experiences with the right connection. And you told me that lovely story about how your mum looked after you, and you didn't feel ever that you were missing something, because they cared for you just as they would any other child.
Well, that's right. And the fact of just how I was adopted, that my mother went into hospital and gave birth to a little girl that died and then left with me 5 days later. And my name, Graeme, I'm named after a nurse that looked after me in the hospital. Just from the start of that, and it was a good family growing up. Never had a lot of money. Dad was an ex-World War II veteran. Both my parents worked, and they taught us the values of life, working and respecting and loving one another and loving God.
And it was a Christian home, wasn't it? And that was so very important, really, in their lives. So deep down, do you see the difference in these kids when they've been away for a weekend?
Yes. We had Lana, one of the staff members from out at Lake Angelico. She said, Graeme, see those 3 kids there? And I looked at the 3 she was talking about. She said, I've never seen them smile or smile like that. The difference sometimes, Keith, is when they come back a second time. Now, we've had up to 500 kids go through this program, and it doesn't cost them anything at all. But when they come back the second time, if they've been good and they've gone to school and done what they've been asked to do, they can come back a second time. You really see the difference in them. And even from the beginning to the ending of a weekend, you can see the difference. There was one time there we had 2 girls, they started to cry. They didn't want to go home.
No, that's right.
They wanted to stay another week.
But unfortunately, you have to go back to work, don't you?
Yeah, and they have to go back to school.
Yeah, look, and you must get some satisfaction out of all that. Like
a lot of satisfaction. And so does a lot of the volunteers. And look, the pilot, who's a general aviation pilot, Dave Shaw, he takes the kids up every time and he just loves it. He never gets sick of it because he sees the smile on their face and he hears the laughter in their voice when they come back down out of that plane that they've never ever been in before.
And certainly, this is really one of those examples where the Christian compassion and care shown in the naturalness of your home has paid itself forward, that you want to do something for other people. I mean, there's a lot of people could learn from that, isn't there, really?
Look, I guess what it says as well, Keith, is that if I'm not unique, if you just sit down and think about how you can help other people and what you might be able to do to go and share that, I'm sure a lot of people could find someone they can help or a group of people that they could become involved with, even if it's established organisations, helping in that, like feeding the poor or helping out in...
And for your case, it's using a skill or an area that you're already involved in and making it practical. Thank you for sharing the story. I hope many people that are listening will not only pray for this work, but also raise a few questions about what can I do to make a difference. Graeme, thank you for sharing with us on the show.
Excuse me.